Coronavirus has hit countries around the world, sparking public health emergencies in places as different from one another as Iran, Italy, China, and the United States. Markets are in turmoil, and companies of all sizes have been hit hard by the virus, especially those that do business in areas affected by the outbreak.
Respirator face masks has sparked a global race to fulfill those orders.
Ramp up manufacturing of so-called N95 respirator face masks.
Supplies of face masks are running short all over the world, leading to evidence of price gouging, empty shelves in stores, and fears among medical professionals that masks needed for surgery and treatment will run out. The World Health Organization warned on March 3rd that severe and mounting disruption to the global supply of personal protective equipment caused by rising demand, panic buying, hoarding, and misuse is putting lives at risk from the new coronavirus and other infectious diseases. The WHO estimated the industry needed to boost manufacturing capacity by 40% to meet demand for personal protective equipment, including masks.
We've increased, almost doubled our output from 19 million respirators to 35 million a month.
Especially noteworthy has been a type of mask called the N95 respirator. The N95 designation means that the mask is capable of filtering out 95% of airborne particles, including bacteria. That has placed leading respirator maker and American industrial giant 3M right at the center of the crisis, at a time when 3M is facing its own difficulties and its stock has had its worst run in decades. The spread of the coronavirus threatens the company's operations around the world, and eyes everywhere are watching to see whether 3M and other large makers of health and safety equipment can meet the soaring demand spurred by the pandemic. As of early 2020, the company was scrambling to ramp up respirator production as masks disappeared from stores and medical professionals worried about accessing sufficient supply to handle the deluge of coronavirus patients on top of those suffering from other medical issues. Global demand for supplies used to help protect people and to prevent the spread of illness, such as respirators, is currently exceeding supply, 3M told CNBC on March 10th. The company said it has increased its production at manufacturing facilities around the world, including the US, Asia, and Europe. It also said it was closely monitoring and responding to any potential impact on its broader supply chain. 3M was already supplying masks to other crisis-affected areas around the world at the time the coronavirus cases began appearing in China.
When we first started hearing about the different diseases in China, hearing there were some strange cases, we were working with Australia already to respond to the wildfires, and there had just been a volcanic eruption in the Philippines. So we were working with those countries to try and get them respirators as they needed it. As soon as we started hearing that there were a few cases in China, we realized that this could be a big event, and we communicated with the plants very quickly to start ramping up production.
In late March, 3M said it doubled global output of N95 respirators to more than 1 billion annually since the outbreak, and it plans to double that again over 12 months to 2 billion. The company said more than 90% of those were designated for healthcare workers, with the rest going to other critical industries, including energy, food, and pharmaceutical companies. Other mask manufacturers have also reported surges in demand in China, Europe, and North America. Honeywell said it has sold 20 million masks in China since the virus first emerged. In late February, Vice President Mike Pence said the government had contracted with 3M to produce more face masks and would be working with other manufacturers. U.S. officials said in early March there were only about 35 million medical-grade N95 facial masks available in the country. That was 1% of the 3.5 billion the country needs now that the outbreak has grown into a full-blown pandemic. The United States Department of Health and Human Services said on March 4th it plans to purchase 500 million N95 respirators over the next 18 months for the Strategic National Stockpile, which is a reservoir of pharmaceuticals and medical supplies that can be used when local supplies run out during a public health emergency. Brick and mortar retailers are seeing shortages of respirators and all types of masks, including several varieties health officials say are not especially effective against the virus. The World Health Organization said on March 3rd that prices of surgical masks had seen a 6-fold increase, while prices of N95 respirators had tripled. One Amazon listing for a 20-pack of 3M N95 masks climbed in price from less than $20 in December 2019 to nearly $200 in early March, according to online price tracker Keepa. 3M said it began running its U.S. respirator factories at full capacity as soon as it began hearing about the virus in China. Meanwhile, many health officials warned that many masks are of dubious use to ordinary citizens who in many cases are buying masks that don't protect against viruses or are wearing the right kind of mask the wrong way. In late February, the Surgeon General of the United States scolded consumers for buying up several types of masks which he said did not protect against the virus and threatened to deplete supplies needed by healthcare professionals. 3M faces the effects of the coronavirus at a time when it is facing challenges on several fronts. Shares of the company are on their worst streak since the Asian financial crisis of the late 1990s. As of March 26, 2020, shares of 3M had fallen more than 35% in the past 12 months. Sales grew modestly in the last quarter of 2019 after falling in each of the previous 5 year-over-year. In a research note in late February, Melius Research said 3M is arguably the most out of favor of the multi-industrial names, just 10% of analysts with a buy rating versus 44% for our average name. The company is facing several challenges. First, it is dealing with lawsuits and other fallout from its use of PFAS, or polyfluoroalkyl substances, which it and other chemical and materials companies have at times used in some of their products. 3M has used PFAS to make firefighting foam and its well-known Scotch product. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said PFAS may interfere with the body's natural hormones, increase cholesterol levels, affect the immune system, and increase the risk of some cancers. 3M told CNBC research has only established that such substances are associated with certain health effects. It has not determined that these substances actually cause adverse health consequences. 3M has phased out the manufacture of some PFAS substances, but continues to use others in some of its products. Gordon Haskett analyst John Inch estimates 3M faces liability costs of about $14.5 billion associated with PFAS. Other challenges loom. Some Wall Street analysts say a recent downturn in the Chinese economy stands to hurt 3M considerably, especially through its businesses in the automotive and electronics sectors. China represented about 10% of 3M's sales and earnings in 2019, according to William Blair. China's already slowing economy has been exacerbated by the spread of the virus. The odd thing is that while coronavirus stands to harm 3M's businesses in China and elsewhere in the world, the company will also receive a boost from the sales of its respirator masks, which are in high demand in China and the US. Both 3M and Honeywell are leading producers of the masks in China, according to William Blair. On March 24th, U.S. automaker Ford said it would work with 3M and GE Healthcare to produce masks, ventilators, and other equipment.
We are focused a lot on respirators in our company, but it's more than that. We're working on ramping up additional capacity for hand sanitizers, for disinfectant capabilities. We're working in partnership with many companies. It's amazing how many companies have come to the table with great ideas on how we can work together.
The company does not say exactly how big its business in respirator masks is, but face masks fall within 3M's personal safety segment, which in turn falls within the company's safety and industrial segment, the largest portion of 3M's business. Safety and industrial accounts for about 1/3 of the company's sales, and personal safety accounts for about 1/3 of that. Gordon Haskett analyst John Inch estimated 3M's face mask business to be about $100 to $150 million before the virus. William Blair analyst Nicholas Hyman estimated sales were as high as $325 million in 2019 and could roughly double to $600 million in 2020. 3M's total sales in 2019 were $32 billion. However, some analysts see in coronavirus an echo of an earlier viral outbreak from nearly 2 decades ago, severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS. The division that contained 3M's face mask business at the time was called Safety, Security, and Protective Services. That business grew for several quarters around the time of the SARS outbreak, with a peak of 12% growth in the second quarter of 2003. Incremental margins were also 50% higher year over year. Incremental margins are the percentage profit the company makes for selling each additional unit above the minimum needed to cover the company's fixed costs. How much of a difference face mask sales can make for 3M is a question dividing Wall Street. Melius Research upgraded 3M to a buy on February 26th, saying that while potential economic dangers of coronavirus are impossible to fully predict or understand, this is a problem that affects the entire S&P 500, rather than just industrials companies such as 3M. The company is also undergoing a large-scale restructuring that could yield a recovery in 2021. The simple reality is that 3M is one of only a handful of S&P 500 names that sells a necessary product in virus containment, the report said. This is being ignored by the market. However, some investors figure any benefit face mask sales may bring to 3M's top or bottom lines are likely to be outweighed by declines elsewhere in the business. Even if coronavirus added $300 million to incremental sales of face masks, that would only add to 10 cents or maybe a bit more of earnings per share, which would be dwarfed by the lost business across 3M's other segments, said John Inch, an analyst for Gordon Haskett. But many around the world will likely be grateful to get their hands on those masks.